To capture the stars outside were silent, but the battlefield was not. Human ships burned in the cold dark, their fire dying one by one. In the middle of that wreckage, a single escape pod drifted, powerless, waiting to be claimed. Inside the pod, a human pilot stirred weakly. His head throbbed, his body ached, and his arms were pinned. His last memory was of alarms screaming in his ship, the sound of metal tearing apart, and then darkness. Now, as his vision cleared, he realized he was no longer inside the pod. He was strapped to a metal chair in a dim alien chamber. Strange blue lights pulsed across the walls, alive like veins. His wrists were bound in glowing restraints that burned cold against his skin. He tried to pull free, but the energy chains only tightened. A soft hiss echoed through the chamber. A door slid open. She walked in, tall, graceful, armored in strange silver plates that shimmered like liquid. The alien female was unlike anything he had ever seen. Her skin glowed faintly, a pale shade that shifted with the light. Her eyes, sharp, deep, unblinking, were fixed on him with a predator's focus. And yet there was something human in the way she studied him. The pilot's heart pounded. He had heard rumors of her kind warriors, ruthless and merciless. They were the reason his fleet lay in ruins. They were the reason he was captured alive. The alien stopped just a step away from him. Her voice was low, smooth, carrying a strange accent, but her words were clear enough. "Do you fear me?" The question caught him off guard. "Not who are. You, not why are you here, but that." He said nothing. He would not give her the pleasure. The alien tilted her head, her expression unreadable. Then she leaned closer, her voice almost a whisper. "Or will you trust me?" The word struck him like a blade. Trust? From her? The human spat out bitterly. "You tied me up. You destroyed my people's ships. And you want me to trust you?" She did not flinch. Her eyes softened, almost for a second, then hardened again. Yes. He struggled in his chains, but the restraints refused to break. She watched him, not with cruelty, but with patience, as if waiting for something. Finally, he growled, "If you're going to kill me, do it. Don't play games." Her lips curved, but it was not quite a smile. "If I wanted you dead, human, you would already be nothing but ash. I kept you alive for a reason." He froze, his heart pounding louder now. A reason? The alien stepped back, circling him slowly, like a hunter studying prey. Yet her voice carried no mockery, only curiosity. "You are strong," she said. "You fought until the last light of your ship was gone. Most would beg. You did not." He glared at her, refusing to answer. She stopped behind him, and he could feel her presence like a shadow at his back. Her voice was softer now. "I need more than your strength. I need your faith." The words echoed inside him, confusing, unsettling. Faith? In her? Before he could speak, the door hissed again. Another alien entered broad, armored, with eyes full of suspicion. He barked something in their native tongue. The female turned. Sharply, replying in the same language, her tone sharp and commanding. The male sneered at the human, then left. When the door sealed shut again, silence filled the chamber. The alien warrior turned back to him, her eyes colder now. "You are in danger, human. Not just from me, from all of them. They do not want you alive." The pilot's breath slowed. "Then why am I here?" She leaned closer, and for the first time, her voice trembled just slightly. "Because I chose to keep you alive. And now you must choose fear me or trust me. If you choose wrong, you will die." The room was heavy with silence. His chains burned against his wrists. His mind screamed at him that this was a trick, a trap. Yet deep inside, something in her voice felt real. Why would she, a warrior of his enemy, ask for trust? Why keep him alive when it would have been easier to end him? The human swallowed hard, his eyes locked on hers. He didn't answer. Not yet. But in that moment, a dangerous truth settled in his chest. His life no longer depended on his strength or his weapons. It depended on her. And he had no idea why. Chains of trust. The chamber was cold, yet the human felt sweat on his skin. Her words kept circling in his mind. Fear me or trust me. Why would his enemy give him such a choice? The alien warrior stood silently for a moment, her glowing eyes never leaving him. Then she turned and walked to a table along the wall. From it, she picked up a small bowl steam rose from inside. She carried it back and set it on the floor before him. Eat, she said. The human stared at the food. A thick soup, dark and strange, with a smell both sweet and bitter. His stomach twisted with hunger, but he kept his mouth shut. You think I poison you? She asked softly. He gave a hard laugh. Should I think otherwise? She tilted her head, considering his answer. Then, without hesitation, she lifted the bowl to her own lips and drank deeply. The strange liquid shimmered against her pale skin. After a long swallow, she lowered the bowl again. No poison, she said. Only survival. She pushed the bowl closer to him. His restraints made it impossible to take it. She watched him for a long moment, then pressed something on her wrist. The energy around his hands flickered, loosening. The pilot blinked. His chains were weaker now, though not gone. He could move his arms enough to hold the bowl. Slowly, carefully, he took it. The warmth burned his cold hands, and the first sip filled his empty stomach like fire. Hunger won over pride, and soon he drank it all. When he finished, she knelt in front of him, studying his face. Better? He wiped his mouth with his sleeve. Why help me? Her expression was unreadable. Because without you, I cannot do what must be done. He narrowed his eyes. And what is that? Her gaze lowered just for a second before meeting his again. To stop my own people. The words hit him like a strike. He stared, waiting for her to laugh, to reveal it was all a cruel trick. But she didn't. Your kind, she continued, is marked for destruction. My leaders call it cleansing. But I have seen the truth. It is not war. It is slaughter. The human clenched his fists. Images of burning ships, dying voices on his cones, filled his mind. His voice cracked. With anger. You speak as if you care. Yet you were part of it. She did not deny it. Her silence was heavier than any words. At last she said, Yes, I fought. I obeyed. But when I saw children burn in your cities, I could not. My people call me traitor already. Soon they will kill me too. The pilot's breath slowed. He wanted to hate her. He wanted to see her as a monster. But the tremor in her voice, the way her eyes lowered at the word children, it felt real. Still, trust did not come easy. He asked carefully, Why me? Out of all the humans you could have saved, why me? She leaned closer. Because you are not broken. Even in chains, your spirit resists. I need that strength. Without it, I cannot succeed. Before he could answer, the chamber door hissed open again. Another alien entered, different this time, smaller, carrying a tray. The warrior snapped something in her own tongue. Sharp and commanding. The smaller alien hesitated, glaring at the human, then placed the tray on the table and left quickly. The warrior walked to the tray, picked up a device, and turned back to him. They suspect me already, she whispered. If you do not choose soon, they will take you from me. And then, human, you will never see freedom again. The human felt his chest tighten. She was asking him to make a choice with his life, hanging by a thread. Trust her or die in the hands of those who had no reason to spare him. Her voice lowered to almost a plea. I do not ask for your love. I do not ask for your forgiveness. Only this your faith. Enough to follow me when the moment comes. His throat was dry. He wanted to refuse, to call her a liar. But part of him, the part that had survived every battle, every loss, whispered that she might be the only chance left. The silence stretched between them. Finally, he said, "If you betray me—" She cut him off, her eyes sharp. "Then you will die. But if you do not trust me, we both die." Her words echoed through the cold chamber. She stepped closer, her shadow falling over him, her eyes searching his. Fear or faith, human? Decide soon. She reactivated his chains, stronger now, and turned to leave the chamber dot as the door sealed shut behind her. The pilot leaned back, his heart pounding. For the first time since his capture, he realized something terrifying. He was no longer afraid of her killing him. He was afraid of what would happen if he didn't trust her. The hidden agenda of the cell was silent again, but his mind was not. The human sat in his chair, chains glowing around his wrists, replaying every word she had spoken. Trust me, fear or faith. It sounded impossible. How could he trust an enemy? How could he put his life in the hands of someone who once commanded the same ships that had destroyed his fleet? And yet, if she truly meant to betray him, why risk feeding him? Why loosen his chains? Why speak of saving him at all? The questions ate at him, leaving him restless. Hours passed, he wasn't sure. How many? The alien ship hummed with life around him, a constant reminder that he was deep inside enemy territory. Then footsteps approached. The door hissed open. She was back. Her silver armor reflected the dim blue light. But this time she carried no food, no bowl. Instead, she held a small device in her hand, its surface glowing faintly. The pilot tensed. What now? He asked, his voice sharp. She ignored his tone and moved closer. Do not speak loudly. This room is not safe. She crouched beside him, holding the device near his restraints. With a faint hum, the chains flickered again, weaker this time. His hands trembled with sudden freedom, though they were still half bound. What are you doing? He whispered. Her gaze flicked toward the ceiling, then back to him. Listening ends soon. I have little time. She leaned close, her voice low. I was chosen for this mission because of my loyalty. My commanders believe I would do anything for them. They do not see my doubts. That is why I still live. Her eyes hardened, her jaw tense. But I am no longer loyal. I have seen enough. I will not serve a war of slaughter any longer. The human studied her face. There was no hesitation in her words, no sign of a lie. You plan to turn against your own kind, he said slowly. Her eyes flickered, unreadable. Yes, but I cannot do it alone. I need a human's voice, your voice. He frowned. Why mine? Because your people will not trust me. They will trust one of their own. If I stand alone, both sides will call me traitor. If you stand with me, then maybe, just maybe, we change everything. The pilot let out a bitter laugh. You want me to help you convince humanity to trust the same alien who burned their homes? That's insane. Her expression didn't shift. Maybe, but it is the only path left. My people will destroy your colonies one by one. Your kind cannot stop them alone. But if some of my people fight with you, her voice lowered, then you have a chance. He stared at her, searching her eyes for any sign of a trick. But what he found instead was desperation. She needed him as much as he needed her. You're asking me to trust you, he said slowly, so you can betray your own people. Yes, she said simply. Before he could answer, the door hissed again. This time, 2 guards entered heavily, armored, their weapons glowing. The warrior stood quickly, slipping the device into her armor. Her voice changed instantly, sharp and commanding. The guards barked something in their tongue, their eyes flicking to the human dot she snapped back at them, her tone cold, her stance firm. After a tense silence, the guards nodded and left, but not before one of them cast the human a long, suspicious look. When the door closed again, the warrior exhaled slowly. "They suspect me more each day." The pilot leaned forward. Then, "Why risk helping me?" Her eyes met his, steady and unflinching. "Because without you, there is no hope. And without hope, there is no reason to fight." The silence stretched between them, heavy and sharp. Finally, she pressed her wrist console, and his chains tightened again. "I cannot free you yet, but soon." She began to step back, then paused. Her eyes softened just for a breath. "When?" "The time comes, human. I will need your answer. If you do not stand with me, we both die." She turned and left, the door sealing behind her. The pilot sat back, his heart racing. His wrists burned where the restraints had been. He closed his eyes, trying to push away the storm in his mind. She was an alien, an enemy, a killer, but she was also his only chance. And the thought that scared him most, he was starting to believe her. Whispers of betrayal. The human slept in short, broken moments. Every sound of the alien ship made him wake. With a jolt, the hiss of doors, the heavy steps of guards, the low hum of the engines. He knew he was surrounded by enemies. Yet his thoughts kept circling back to her, the alien warrior, his captor. His only possible ally. Her words haunted him. "Without you, we both die." He wanted to dismiss them as lies, but the memory of her voice, quiet, desperate, would not leave him. The door opened suddenly. 2 guards stepped in, their armor glowing faintly. One of them barked something in their language and gestured sharply at him. The human's stomach twisted. He understood. Nothing, but the tone was clear. "Move." They released his chains, only to replace them with heavier restraints on his wrists and ankles. Then they forced him forward, down a long corridor. The ship's walls pulsed with dim light, alive and alien. Everywhere he looked, other soldiers moved, their eyes hard, their voices sharp. He felt the weight of their stares. To them, he was less than an enemy. He was prey. At last, the guard shoved him into a large chamber, and she was there. The warrior stood tall at the center, speaking with a higher-ranking alien and officer, judging by his ornate armor. Her tone was strong, her words sharp, but her eyes flicked to the human for only a second before returning to the officer. He caught that glance. Quick, hidden, but full of meaning. Something was wrong. The officer stepped closer, circling the human, slowly like a predator studying its meal. His voice was calm, almost cold. Though the human couldn't understand the words, the intent was clear. Finally, the officer spoke one word in the human's own tongue. "Spy." The human's chest tightened. He didn't answer. The officer sneered and barked another order. Suddenly, one of the guards slammed a weapon against the human's stomach. He gasped in pain, dropping to one knee. The officer's voice rose, sharp, accusing. Then he turned on the warrior, pointing at her. The human didn't need translation. He knew what was happening. They suspected her. The warrior kept her composure, her face a mask of steel. She answered the officer in their tongue, her words firm, her tone strong. For a moment, it seemed to calm him. But his eyes narrowed, filled with suspicion. Then, with a sudden gesture, he ordered the guards. One of them grabbed the human's arm, dragging him toward a side door. The warrior's voice cracked like a whip, halting them. She stepped forward, her hand gripping the hilt of her weapon. Her tone was dangerous, commanding. The officer froze, glaring at her. The silence stretched, thick with tension. Finally, He gave a mocking laugh, waved his hand, and left the chamber. The guards followed, though one of them cast a long, hateful look at the human. The door sealed shut. The chamber was quiet now. Only the warrior and the human remained. She turned toward him, her expression unreadable. But in her eyes, just for a flicker, there was relief. "You see now," she whispered. "They doubt me already." The human struggled to catch his breath. "And yet you still protect me." "Why?" Her voice was low, urgent. "Because without you, my plan ends. And if my plan ends, your people burn." He stared at her, anger mixing with confusion. "What if they discover us both? What if this is just another trap?" Her eyes hardened. "Then I die first. But if I fall, you will not last a single hour after me." She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I will move you soon. Somewhere safer. But you must be ready. If you hesitate when I call, we both perish." He felt his chest tighten again. Every word she spoke pushed him deeper into a storm he couldn't escape. Still, he asked, "Why risk your life for this? Why betray your own kind?" Her jaw clenched. For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she whispered, "Because once I believed in them, but now I believe in something greater. I believe slaughter is wrong." Her voice broke, softer than he had ever heard. "And I believe you can help me stop it." Before he could answer, the chamber door hissed open again. Another soldier stood there, silent, his eyes sharp and suspicious. He gave a short command. Warrior straightened, her face hardening into her usual mask. She barked an order back. The soldier lingered a moment, then left. When the door closed again, the warrior's voice dropped into a whisper. "They are watching me. Soon they will test my loyalty. And when they do, human." She leaned close, her eyes burning into his. "You must choose. Do you trust me or do you fear me?" Her words hung in the air, sharp as a blade. For the first time, the human felt the weight of the choice pressing down on him. It was no longer just about his survival. It was about the survival of both their worlds. The test of loyalty. The human's heart was still pounding when the alarm echoed through the alien ship. A deep, rumbling sound filled the walls, followed by flashing red lights. The door of his chamber burst open. Guards stormed in, weapons glowing. They yanked him to his feet and dragged him into the corridor. His chains clinked with every step. He tried to resist, but their grip was iron. And then he saw her. The warrior was waiting ahead, standing tall in her silver armor. Her face was calm, but her eyes gave away the truth, tension, fear, and something else. Determination. The guard shoved him forward until he stood beside her. The leader of the guard spoke sharply in their tongue, his voice hard and commanding. The warrior answered quickly, her tone firm. Then, with a nod, she gestured for the human to follow. The guards surrounded them as they walked down the long hall. Human's stomach twisted. He didn't know where they were going, but every step felt heavier. At last, they entered a wide chamber. It was circular, the walls lined with glowing panels. At the center stood the alien officer, the same one who had circled the human like prey before. His eyes burned with suspicion. The officer barked an order. At once, the guards shoved the human forward until he stumbled into the middle of the chamber. Then the officer turned to the warrior. He spoke at length, his voice sharp, filled with challenge. His hand pointed to the human again. Begin. Human couldn't understand the words, but the meaning became clear as the officer's gaze hardened. This was a test of her loyalty. The warrior's body tensed, but she did not falter. She answered him, her words precise, her tone cold. The officer narrowed his eyes. With a gesture, a guard tossed something at her feet. A blade. Long and sharp, glowing faintly blue. The officer gave his final command. The warrior was to kill the human. The chamber fell silent. The human's breath caught in his throat. His eyes locked on the blade, then on her. She didn't move. Not yet. The guards shifted, their weapons aimed at her. The officer's gaze never left her face. The human felt his chest tighten. This was it, the truth. Either she betrayed him now, or she defied her people. Slowly she crouched and picked up the blade, its light reflected in her eyes. She stood tall again, the weapon steady in her hand. For a moment, she said nothing. Then she stepped closer to him. Her voice was low, just enough for him to hear. Do not flinch. The human's pulse raced. Every muscle in his body screamed to run, to fight, to do something, but his chains held him still. She raised the blade high. The guards leaned forward, eager. The officer's lips curved into a cruel smile. And then the blade came down, but it did not strike him. At the last instant, she twisted her wrist, slashing his chains instead of his body. Sparks flew as the restraints snapped open. Gasps filled the chamber. The human's wrists were free. Before the guards could react, she spun, her blade flashing in wide arcs. The first guard fell, weapon clattering. Another cried out as the blade sliced across his armor. Chaos erupted. The officer shouted furiously, drawing his own weapon. Run! She shouted at the human, but he didn't run. Instead, he grabbed the fallen guard's weapon, its weight heavy but familiar in his hands. Blinding energy filled the chamber as the warrior and the human fought side by side. She moved with deadly grace, each strike precise. He fired clumsy but desperate blasts, forcing the guards back. For the first time, they weren't captor and prisoner. They were allies, but the officer was different. He fought with skill, his strikes sharp and ruthless. His weapon clashed with her blade, the sound echoing like thunder. Sparks lit the room. The human tried to aim at the officer, but another guard blocked him. The blast missed. The warrior cried out as the officer's strike grazed her side, leaving a glowing wound across her armor. She staggered but did not fall. With a snarl, she pushed forward again, her blade crossing with his in a deadly rhythm. The human's hands shook as he fired again. This time, the blast struck true, slamming into the officer's shoulder. The alien roared in fury, stumbling back. The warrior seized the moment. With one last strike, her blade cut across his chest, sending him crashing to the ground. The chamber fell silent except for the sound of their heavy breaths. The guards who remained alive fled, their fear overpowering their loyalty. The officer lay still. The warrior turned to the human, her blade dripping with faint blue light. Her face was pale, her wound glowing faintly, but her eyes burned with fire. You see now, she said, her voice steady despite the pain. They will hunt us both. There is no turning back. The human stared at her, his chest heaving. His wrists ached where the chains had been. He swallowed hard, then nodded. Then I stand with you? Her lips curved into the faintest smile. Faith, not fear. But before they could move, the alarm rose again, louder, sharper, more urgent. The ship itself seemed to scream. More soldiers were coming. Their fight was only beginning. Flight through fire. The alarm screamed louder, echoing through every wall of the alien ship. Red lights flashed, painting the halls in blood like colors. The human could hear boots pounding, weapons charging. They were coming. The warrior grabbed his arm, pulling him toward the far exit of the chamber. Her wound bled faint blue light, but she did not slow. Her grip was firm, her step sure. Stay close, she said, her voice sharp and urgent. If we're separated, you will not last. The human clutched the stolen weapon tighter and followed. They burst into the corridor. Already, soldiers were swarming, their glowing eyes fixed on the human, hate burning in them. Fire! One shouted. Energy bolts ripped through the air. The warrior shoved him behind a column as sparks exploded against the walls. She returned. Fire with deadly speed, her blade flashing and her stolen rifle humming. Move! She barked, shoving him forward again. The human ran, his lungs burning, his chains gone, but his wrists still sore. He fired blindly behind him, forcing the guards to scatter. The ship trembled as if it too was alive, angry at their defiance. They rounded a corner and found another squad, waiting. Trapped. The soldier at the front raised his weapon. But before he could fire, the warrior leapt forward, her blade cutting through him like lightning. She moved with fury, each strike faster than the human could follow. Cover me, she shouted. He lifted his weapon, firing at the nearest soldiers. One blast hit, dropping a guard. Another missed, burning a hole into the wall. The smell of scorched metal filled his nose. By the time he looked again, the warrior had cleared the rest. Bodies fell in silence. She was breathing hard now, her wound slowing her. But still, she pulled him onward. They finally reached a wide door. The warrior slapped her palm against a glowing panel. It hissed, then slid open, revealing a dark hangar. Inside were sleek alien ships, their hulls gleaming under cold lights. The human's chest tightened. Escape ships. But already, alarms echoed here too. Soldiers poured into the hangar from every side. The warrior cursed under her breath. They will destroy us before we reach a ship. The human looked around wildly. He saw crates stacked high, walkways above, ships humming with energy. The whole hangar was a maze. Then we don't go straight, he said, surprising even himself. We go through the shadows. The warrior's eyes met his for a brief second. Then, with the faintest smile, she nodded. They slipped behind the crates as the soldiers advanced. Bolts of energy streaked past, lighting the air. The human ducked low, his heart pounding so hard it hurt. Step by step, they moved along the shadows. Every few seconds, the warrior peeked out and fired a quick shot to keep the soldiers back. But the enemy was closing in. Finally, they reached the base of one of the smaller ships. Its ramp was closed, its engines silent. How do we get in? He whispered. She pressed a device against the hull. The panel sparked, then slid open with a hiss. Inside, she ordered. The human scrambled in first. The interior was sleek, glowing faintly with alien light. The warrior followed, sealing the door behind them. For a moment, silence. Then the hangar speakers roared with the officer's voice. Though the human could not understand the words, the meaning was clear. A hunt. The ship shook as soldiers outside pounded on the hull. Can you fly it? The human asked. The warrior slid into the pilot's seat, her hands moving across glowing controls. Yes, but not without a fight. The engines roared to life, vibrating under their feet. The hangar doors above began to close, sealing the sky away. They'll trap us inside. The human shouted. The warrior slammed a lever forward. The ship lifted, hovering above the hangar floor. Soldiers scattered, firing upward. The hull shook under the assault. Hold steady. She barked. The human braced himself as the ship surged. Upward, energy blasts rocked the cabin, alarms flashing red. The closing hangar doors loomed above, narrowing fast. They'll crush us, he said. Not if we break through first. She pushed the controls harder. The ship screamed as it shot upward. Bolts of fire hammered the hull. One engine sparked, alarms wailing. The human gripped the seat, praying silently. The hangar doors were almost closed. Only a narrow slit of space remained. The warrior bared her teeth and drove the ship higher. Hold on. The vessel scraped against the edges, metal screeching. Sparks filled the cabin. The ship forced itself through, and then they were out. Space opened before them, vast and endless. Stars burned like cold fire across the black. The human gasped, all mixing with relief. But his relief ended quickly. Behind them, the alien flagship stirred. Its massive guns turned, aiming straight at them. The warrior's voice was grim. They will not let us escape so easily. The human swallowed hard. Then what now? She glanced at him, her eyes blazing even through the pain. Now, she said, gripping the controls, we fight the whole empire. Faith in the void. The small ship trembled as it sped into the void of space. The stars stretched into bright lines, but behind them, the massive alien flagship followed like a predator hunting prey. The human gripped the seat as the whole cabin shook. Warning lights flashed red across the control panels. They're targeting. Use, he said, his voice tight. The warrior's hands moved quickly across the glowing controls. Her face was pale from the wound on her side, but her eyes were sharp, blazing with focus. They won't miss twice, she said. We must outthink them, not outrun them. A human looked at her, then at the endless dark ahead. His chest tightened. Outthink an empire? But then he saw the fire in her gaze, the same fire that had made her cut his chains instead of his throat. He nodded. Tell me what to do. The first barrage came like thunder. Beams of light ripped across the black, missing them by meters. The ship shuddered as fragments of energy scraped across the hull. The warrior gritted her teeth. Take the lower console. When I say fire, press the red glyph. The human slid into the second seat, staring at the strange symbols. None of them looked like buttons, he knew. His hands shook. He thought of the orphanage back on Earth, of children who had believed humans could face anything. He thought of her, an alien, who asked not for fear, but for faith. He steadied his hands. I'm ready. The flagship loomed closer, its guns glowing brighter. Now! She shouted. He slammed the red glyph. The ship spun suddenly, rolling. Through the void, energy beams missed them by inches. The human stomach lurched, but the warrior pulled them steady again. Not another barrage came. She shouted again. He pressed the glyph, firing counterbursts from hidden cannons. Streams of light shot back at the flagship, slamming into its shields. The human almost laughed in shock. We hit them. Not enough, she growled. They are stronger. We need precision. The human's eyes darted to the scanner screen. It showed the massive flagship behind them, its power glowing like a sun. But he noticed something. Small pulse at the ship's side. What's that? He asked, pointing dot. She glanced quickly. Then her lips curled. A weakness. Their shield generator. Her hands tightened on the controls. But to strike it, we must get closer. Too close. The human swallowed hard. Closer meant death. Yet he saw no fear in her face. Only resolve. Do you trust me? She asked. He held her gaze. His voice was firm. Yes. She pushed the ship forward, diving straight toward the flagship. The human's heart hammered. Energy beams cut the void around them. One clipped their wing, sending sparks across the cabin. Smoke filled the air. Almost. There, she muttered, her knuckles white on the controls. The human's hands hovered over the glyphs, ready. His whole body shook, but his mind was clear. This wasn't just survival. This was their stand against a power that wanted him dead, and her broken. The flagship grew massive before them, its hull filling the stars. Its cannons charged, light, building into blinding suns. Now! She shouted. The human slammed the glyphs. Their ship rolled and spun, weaving through fire. Bolts of energy lit the dark, missing by inches. One struck close, tearing across their hull. Alarm screamed. The cabin shook so hard he thought the ship would rip apart. But still she drove them forward. Closer. She hissed. The human's breath caught as the glowing pulse, the shield generator filled the screen. Now, human, fire everything. He slammed his hand across the console. Cannons lit with a deafening roar, streams of burning light blasting into the generator. The first strike glanced off. The second tore deeper dot, and then the third, the generator, erupted in a blinding explosion. The flagship shuddered violently. Its shields flickered, then died. The human stared in shock. We did it. The warrior's smile was fierce. Now they bleed. But the flagship was not finished. Its guns turned again, glowing with deadly power. The human's chest sank. Without shields, they had one chance. The warrior's hands hovered over the controls. She was trembling now, her wound worse, blood seeping down her armor. You can't. Keep flying, he said, panic in his voice. She looked at him, eyes blazing through the pain. Then you must. His throat went dry. I don't know how. You learn, or we both die. Another barrage cut through the dark. The ship jolted violently. The warrior slid from the seat, her strength failing. The human grabbed the controls. His hands shook, the glowing symbols strange under his fingers. He remembered her words. Faith, not fear. His breath slowed. His mind sharpened. He pulled the ship into a sharp dive. Energy beams roared past, missing them by seconds. He twisted upward, circling the flagship's hull. It felt impossible, yet somehow he flew. Now strike. The warrior gasped from the floor. The humans slammed the weapons again. Their cannons fired in a blazing storm, ripping across the flagship's exposed side. Explosions tore through its hull. Fires erupted across its surface. The massive ship groaned, shuddered, then broke apart in a burst of light. The human shielded his eyes as the Empire's warship shattered into fire and silence. When the light faded, only the stars remained. Small ship drifted in the quiet void, battered but alive. The human looked down at the warrior. She was pale, her breath shallow, but her eyes still burned with strength. You flew like one of us, she whispered. He shook his head, his voice soft. No, I flew because of you. For the first time, her lips curved into a gentle smile. Then, remember this, human. Faith can change even the void. The ship floated forward into the stars. Two souls bound by choice, no longer captor and prisoner, but allies. And somewhere, in the endless dark, the Empire would learn that a single human and a single warrior could defy them all.